everybody. Welcome to Local Chat. That's right. It's me, your host, Ian. I'm here every single week hosting this show. There's no other person here except for Jake. Jake's joining us this week. How you doing, buddy?
I'm here, your faithful co-host.
That's right. I've been here, the only host for 219 episodes. I have zero faith in that number. I'm pretty sure it's wrong. But anyways, there was a guy named Will. Unfortunately, Will got caught up in the #MeToo movement, and we've kind of had to scrub him from everything and start fresh from here. No, I'm just kidding. Will's on a cruise. Jake, I thought we could start this off with a little game. Are you ready for a little game?
Sure.
Will is on a cruise for a week with the save data folks, because I'm forgetting Chris and Vic. There we go. I'm just like blanking on names here. Chris and Vic got married on the cruise. So they're doing a marriage cruise. A lot of save data people are invited. Will and Karen got invited as well. I did not get invited. I'm just kidding. I probably wouldn't have wanted to go anyways. I don't like cruises. I was thinking Will's going to come back with cruise stories. Let's predict the cruise stories that he will come back with. Things that have happened to him / that he has done while on a week cruise in the Caribbean. First question. Is it Caribbean or Caribbean?
I mean, as someone who's not from there, I can't say for certain. I've always said Caribbean. I
lean towards Caribbean. Caribbean's a little bit too much. Hi, Halucha. Halucha's got a good point. They weren't invited either, which is like, that's messed up. You know, I bet OP wasn't invited either. And that's just presumptuous. So anyways, predicting cruise predictions, and I want to see some cruise story predictions in the chat. This is a little bit of an inside baseball, but Karen posted in a Discord today. She posted a find the iguana picture. And I think the story behind that is that Will got spooked by an iguana. Like he didn't see an iguana and it crept up on him and he just went, because he's done that to my cats before.
I believe it.
Yeah. What's your cruise story prediction?
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think back to things that happened to me on the two cruises I've been on, one with my family and one with Hazel. And I'm trying to think of like easy common stuff. I would say, you know, took not like a huge tumble down the stairs, but maybe a misstep in one of the staircases as the boat moved.
Yes.
That's probably a pretty common one. I'm gonna my out of left field answer is gonna be that Will loses one of his sandals on the shore.
You know,
that happened to me.
Yeah, and his last trip down to Florida, he lost his glasses in the ocean. So I could definitely see him losing something. I was gonna kind of do something similar. Actually, similar to both of your things. So the first one being somebody gets sick. Somebody in the group gets sick enough that they have to take a day or two off. You know, it always happens when you're traveling. And number two is that I know Will was super excited about this is his first vacation with the Switch 2. And a lot of other people are bringing their Switch 2s as well. Somebody's Switch 2 breaks or gets lost. And breaks as in they drop it. The console's great. I don't think it's going to break on them, but they will accidentally break it.
Goes overboard. Yeah.
Halucha has 2 in the chat. Number 1, hungover. I was thinking that somebody goes a little bit too hard one night and that becomes a story. And the second one is hit up by swingers. Yeah, probably. I wonder now, do you think he's looking for upside down pineapples? Do you think Will knows what an upside down pineapple is?
I don't know. I know our boat didn't have like the drink options were pretty expensive beyond even like you could get like an unlimited soda pass, and then it got like more expensive from there as you went to the more adult beverages. So we were just like, nah,
same
water the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. It really depends on how loosey goosey everyone's getting.
That's true.
With their money.
Well, so Will, I know you'll be listening to this. If you do what I do, you know, you listen to the episodes that you miss, so you're all caught up by the time you come back. Don't come back. We've kicked you out, took over your ownership, hostile takeover. We paid you back.
He's an island boy now.
We paid you your $50 ownership share back. It's in the mail. Goodbye forever. No, we'll see Will back next week. But what I really want to talk about is some video games. Jake, it's my understanding that you've been playing a video game that everybody says is the game of the year, but is secretly a piece of shit. Is that right?
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's certainly not my bag. I was like, so we're talking about Blueprints, if anybody, which I had never said the name out loud until like 2 days ago when I was describing it to Hazel, and then I put in the Discord that I'm like, oh, it's Blueprints. Like the construction thing. Because for those who haven't played it, the idea is you have been bequeathed a magical house that has to be drafted. Like, you have to draft the layout of the house every single day. And your grandfather is like, you have to get to the last room in order to properly inherit the house. And so the whole game is you trying to get to the last room, and there's 1,000 different things that will get in your way. Mm-hmm. But similarly to my complaints about Case of the Golden Idol, which I know was on yours and Will's Game of the Year discussion two years ago, maybe 3 at this point.
Maybe 3, yeah.
A couple of years ago. I just ended up feeling like an idiot. Because I'm like...
Yeah.
It was definitely not the kind of puzzles that I do well with. And I think one of the things that got kind of talked about in the Discord is they throw so much data at you in terms of like possible clues, little bits of lore, that it quickly becomes an almost insurmountable task to like take stock of all of it, and even kind of to step back and see the forest from the trees. Forest for the trees, what's the expression? Now I'm being doubly stupid. You can't really even take a step back and figure out where everything goes until like you're well into it, and then you start putting the pieces together. And so even like I did finally roll the credits thanks to a pretty substantial clue from Carl in our Discord. Save data's Carl. Where without that, I never would have finished the game, because it relied on a specific mechanic that had, to that point, never been used. It required me pushing and pulling a thing. I guess that's a lie. They have in the pump room, you push and pull levers. But that, in my head, is philosophically different than pushing and pulling like a thing across a room, which was what had gotten in my way. That I hadn't even thought to go do that, to move it out of the way of something, because I had no evidence that that was a thing that the game would let me do. And so I didn't even try it.
I don't think you should feel bad about it, though, because that was one of the reasons why I played 10 or 12 days worth of this game, which was probably like 2, maybe 3 hours. And I dropped it. And one of the major reasons was the puzzles. I could pretty quickly tell that the puzzles are not good. Like 90% of the challenge of the puzzles is how obtuse they are. Like you say, it is not clear what is a puzzle and what is not a puzzle. And there are so many clues going on, and they're not really related to each other. And so a lot of the quote unquote solving the puzzles is just wading through piles and piles of bullshit to come up with some obtuse answer that they've had from the start. And it's gotten to the point where, for some reason, I keep seeing posts from the Blueprint subreddit in my Reddit feed, and it's very funny and very in an egotistical way, like reassuring of my negative thoughts of the game, to see how many people post in that subreddit. I don't know if you've seen it, but people are like, hey, am I onto something here? Like, the attic has 13 rafters on one side and 11 rafters on the other side, and this other room has 11 lilies. Like, is this a puzzle here? Like, somebody just tell me. And it's like, no.
Everything is shaped like a clue. So I was looking for stuff and then not looking in the right places, because I was like, oh, and that's this a problem. Must be something.
That's a problem.
And then
like,
it just wasn't.
Yeah, and to make it clear, it is very difficult to design puzzles properly, especially puzzles this complex. But I think if you're going to make it work, then the clues that actually matter need to stand out in some way. And the way you prove that is by playtesting. Like I'm not saying they didn't playtest this game or whatever.
There were a ton of playtesters in the credits. I was kind of shocked. There were so many.
Because if I was making this game and I was playtesting it, and I would see people struggling and see them like not picking up on clues fast enough, I'd be like, guys, we kind of fucked up. Like somehow we have built these puzzles in such a way that anything becomes a clue, and therefore the players are focusing on the wrong fucking thing 90% of the time. That's a fucking problem with your puzzle design. And that for me was so that's why I'm like, I'm glad you got through the game. You had a lot more patience with it than I did, but don't feel bad about those puzzles at all, because I looked up a lot of them. Excuse me, getting emotional. I looked up a lot of them after I decided to stop playing the game, where I was like, okay, what am I really missing here? Like, people act like there's like all these cathartic moments when you solve some of these puzzles. And I started looking through some of the solutions and what these puzzles were, and I was like, okay, some of them are cool, but a majority of them were just like, that's fucking bullshit. Like, I would not have a cathartic moment when I solved that. I would be fucking furious that you made me spend so much time and effort into a puzzle that does not have a satisfying solution to it. So I want to make sure, I know you're intelligent. Don't feel dumb. This game just has poorly designed puzzles. I'm on your side.
I'm glad. I felt a little bit not vindicated, I guess, but I felt supported by I posted the Game Maker's Toolkit did a brief review of the game, and I really resonated with one of their points, which was talking about, like, when I approach a puzzle game, I'll like find a puzzle, and then I want to see that specific puzzle through to its conclusion. Yes. Before I go off and do something else. But Blueprints is very deliberately designed kind of so that you can't do that.
Yeah, it's fucking bullshit. It's a terrible game design decision. It's like just real quick.
So much. Yeah.
Like literally like puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle. It's like if you're putting together a jigsaw puzzle and every 15 minutes somebody comes by, puts all the puzzles back, puts all the pieces back in the box, shakes it, and then hands it back to you and says, okay, start over, but solve it this time. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I understand why they did that mechanic, the drafting, the day by day. It's popular now. I think it's quote unquote implemented well, and what I mean by that was that they're not just throwing that in as a bullshit mechanic, like they built the game around it, but it fucking sucks in a puzzle game. It's bullshit. It shouldn't be there in a puzzle game to, like you said, constantly reset and prevent you from making meaningful progress on one or two puzzles at a time, and instead like just too much fucking random bullshit. Sorry, just to hop in there, just to echo all your thoughts, because you're right, buddy. You're 100% right.
Yeah, I kept feeling really stupid, and then it was like, very rarely has a game, after I've like finished it or kind of put it down, continued to make me feel stupid, because I kept thinking about it. And then I watched the Game Maker's Toolkit review, and I watched a lore recap video, because Carl had said I had like started to get bits and pieces of the story, and I was kind of interested. I wanted to see if that was going to pay off. But it didn't, for me at least. But I watched because Carl was like, this story's pretty interesting. And in both those videos, just because of the nature of video and having, B-roll underneath dialogue, I was seeing stuff and being like, oh, God, I'm realizing, like, there's another, like, there's a lot of chess motifs woven throughout the game. And it wasn't until watching some other people play the game that I was like, that's gotta be a puzzle. There's like chess pieces in almost every room, and sometimes rooms have a chess board in them. And I was like, okay, I had just thought that was like in the world building, like the artistic direction. I'm like, oh, quirky guy who loves games made this magic mansion. It's just interesting set dressing. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought this is something that I should be paying attention to. So I continue to feel stupid thinking about it.
I'm not going to
keep playing it.
Um, so what was interesting was when I was playing, I was noticing those things. I noticed the chess set. This is kind of counter to what I said earlier, but there were things that stood out to me as clues, like the chess set, portraits on the wall that would change, etc. Like I started noticing day by day the things, the set piece decorations that would change. They would be the same type of decoration, but they would change for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started noticing that stuff. But it gave you no means to understand those, right? Like, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong here, but my understanding is those clues mean absolutely fucking nothing until you pull some random room with some random clue in it that basically either explains the solution or gives you enough information to be like, oh, that's the solution. And now all those clues are suddenly relevant. It didn't feel like me noticing the clues was enough to actually solve anything on my own, especially since the rooms are changing, etc. And that was frustrating. Even when I did recognize things where I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a clue, but I have no fucking idea what it means because they're obscuring and hiding too much of the puzzle, and then that's frustrating in its own right. You know?
Yeah. Like there's this is not a spoiler, but there's a series of safes throughout the house.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point I found a magnifying glass and there's a dark room with some photographs in it. And so I was like, oh, they want me to use the magnifying glass to inspect something, and there's going to be some sort of valuable information on this. And I found a date, a 4-digit date. And I was like, okay, surely that belongs to one of the safes. And then I did eventually find a clue that kind of corroborated that instinct. But then I was just like looking for dates to try to unlock all these other safes. And there are 1,000 dates scattered throughout this game that are totally tangential to this series of puzzles, where it's either like on like letterhead that's just like random world building. There's a like a in the archives you can open up a book that has a bunch of newspaper clippings, dates on every single one of those pages, and so suddenly I'm swimming in like pages of dates, and with not even realizing that all of that is totally superfluous to the very specific dates that unlock these specific spots in the game. So yeah, it's when everything is clue shaped, how am I supposed to tell what is and isn't important? But I don't just want to keep like dumping on this, but it was very frustrating in a different way than Golden Idol was.
But I think it's fair that we have this frustration with it because there's, like we said, there's two big problems with it. One is everything's a clue and it's not clear what's a valid clue or how that clue relates to the puzzle that it actually relates to versus other things. And number two is they actively keep you away from the puzzles as much as possible, right? It's all RNG. You can't touch it. Oh, you're touching the puzzle, but the clue is in a room that you haven't done on this run or you haven't encountered it yet. So it's like between those two things. And then, I mean, this is a little bit, I wouldn't call it vindictive. I would say mean-spirited in a way. But I think it's part of criticism, which is this game is getting so much positive praise this year. It doesn't deserve it, folks. This is not a good game. Like, you know, like it's probably a solid 7 out of 10. But people acting like it's the best puzzle game of all time. And it's just like, no, this is bad design. And I feel like this is punching up to basically say, hey, you guys got to stop praising this game so much because it has some very big flaws in it. And it's one of those things where I don't know how you feel about this, but I get upset. Let me ask it as a question. Do you get upset when something is getting lavish praise, like best of all time, you know, best movie, best album or whatever, and then you feel like it's not good? Does that make you upset? Because it makes me upset.
I mean, I guess upset in a way. I don't ever necessarily feel like resentful against the piece of art in question.
I do.
But yeah, I mean, typically it prompts a certain amount of introspection just to be like, okay,
is it me?
Why didn't I click with this? And then a bit of a deeper dive into like okay, well let me try to look at this a little more clinically. Like
Yeah.
my how I ended up playing 100 hours of Starfield to try to
Yes.
decipher
Yes.
what
To
I didn't
decipher
like
why it
about
wasn't
it.
working. Yeah. But
But
I think for me, I definitely do have resentment towards something that is getting more praise than I think it deserves,
mm,
which is not, it's not a good thing to feel. But as a small piece of justifying that, I think I do that because, um, my concern is that if something that is poorly done gets lots of praise, it gets lots of attention, and then future pieces of entertainment will try and imitate and recreate what that specific piece did. Because everybody says, hey, Blueprints was amazing, so now let's do a bunch of roguelike puzzlers, you know? Oh, they had such obscure clues everywhere. Let's do that too. And I want to be the one standing up and screaming as a critic to be like, no, that wasn't good. That was bad. Don't lavish praise on it, you know? Don't give
yeah,
them a cookie for fucking up a game so badly, you know, because
yeah,
now everybody else is going to fuck up their game. That's kind of my concern, and that's why I turn into an asshole when everybody's lavishing praise on something that I think has like very core problems in it, like
yeah.
Blueprints.
And I guess I will say it's pretty rare that I feel something has wasted my time. Like even with
Hmm.
Starfield, I didn't necessarily feel like I wasted 100 hours because I did end up um in my thinking about it. I ended up like learning a lot about even my own storytelling sensibilities and kind of like what I'm looking for in that genre of storytelling. But
Hmm.
definitely with Blueprints, because this was something that we talked about in the Discord, where it was like my own brain betrayed me because it ended up on a tangent that was completely incompatible with the path that the game wanted me to go down. And so I was just
Yeah.
running into brick wall after brick wall after brick wall, sometimes literally in the narrative of the game. Um, where like I truly I never would have completed this game without external guidance. Like I straight up I would have my brain soft locked me at a specific point in the game. And so it maybe perhaps it's a bit harsh to say that it wasted my time, but I did end up feeling like
No,
there
I
there
think
was a
that's
lot of
fair.
time that I was just spinning my wheels,
Yeah. I
not
mean,
doing anything.
I think that's fair for two reasons. One is that like we said, the game's clues are not clear enough, and the path the game wants you to take is not clear enough. So a lot of times you are spinning your wheels, right? And part of that is on you not figuring it out. Part of that is on the game not helping you out along the way. And I don't mean like literally hints, but like a good it's hard to make a good puzzle, but a good puzzle should kind of let you know what it wants
There's
and
not
kind of
enough
guide your
diegetic
gaze to that.
information.
Yes, exactly. But the other half of that, though, is that the game, now that I think about it, is literally designed to waste your fucking time because it's RNG drafting rooms day after day. Like that design mechanic literally has built-in wasted time. Oh, sorry, didn't draft the right room. Fuck you. Your day's fucked. Completely worthless. Next day. It's fucked.
Time. I think that just as maybe a conclusion, a conclusory thought.
Hmm.
This was another bit of what Game Maker's Toolkit was talking about. The narrative conceit of the game being you've inherited this house, but you must find the 46th room. I think in the opening voiceover it says like in a reasonable amount of time. There's like
Yeah.
an unspecified but kind of definite window of time in which it is proposed that you will complete the game. And so as I was getting further into this, like I kind of in the back of my head I'm like there's no way that this game actually has like a fail state if you take too long to beat it, because that would be
Hmm.
like the greatest aggravation of all to get to like day 80 or something, and
Yeah.
then it's like the executors of your grandfather's will have decided that you took too long and now you have to start over.
Jeez.
That would be crazy. And so I always kind of knew in the back of my head that that was certainly never going to be the case. But even so, as I was going day after day after day, I was feeling like an internal stress of
Yeah.
like it's taking too long. I'm taking too long. I have to I just have to get through to the end of this. And so that was adding like layers of frustration when it would get to where you said like you rolled the wrong set of rooms and you only got like 3 ranks up and you have to restart the whole thing. So yeah, just it was a lot. It was a lot for me for several
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. I will say though, folks, if you're listening to this, if you're into puzzle games, if you've thought about trying Blueprints, if these criticisms we have aren't completely off-putting to you, go try this game. There's zero hurdle, right? It's on Game Pass. If you don't
Yeah.
have Game Pass, get Game Pass. The fuck are you doing? Don't pay full price for it. The Xbox gift cards go on sale all the time. I think I'm supposed to be paying like $20 a month, but I pay $14 a month for Game Pass Ultimate because I just stack the gift cards. Get fucking Game Pass. What are you doing? And then go play Blueprints if you're at all interested in it. You know, clearly it's catching a lot of people. You may not have the problems we had with it. And it's, you know, we've kind of just shit on the game for 20 minutes, but as you can see, there's a lot of game there, enough to inspire this level of discourse, right? This is not a game that we say, I played it, wasn't good, moving on. So, you know, if you're at all interested, I don't want to dissuade you from trying out Blueprints, especially because it's on Game Pass, which makes it free because you have Game Pass. You have Game Pass. Everybody should have Game Pass.
Everybody.
Thanks to Microsoft for sponsoring this episode.
Gets Game Pass.
Everybody gets Game Pass. Jake, anything else you've been playing this week?
Yes, also on Game Pass is Citizen Sleeper 2, which I will be adding to the GOTY list.
Oh, what's the diffs between Sleeper 1 and Sleeper 2?
So Sleeper 2 has added a couple of new things. I think the biggest thing is that it's not set in one location. Citizen Sleeper 1 is just on, Erlin's Eye, the big
ship.
ring station.
Yeah.
This one, you have a spaceship, and you can go around various hubs in the solar system,
Ooh.
which are each their own like small version of the world of Citizen Sleeper 1, where they'll have their own specific characters and their own specific missions. And from those hubs, you can get like contracts to go survey an asteroid, search a derelict ship, seek out a distress signal. Then additionally, because of that mechanic, you can get freelance crew members that have their own dice that you can roll when you're out on missions, because it's that whole tabletop dice rolling mechanic. So you have your set of dice, and then your crew have their set of dice and their own kind of skills and stuff. So like for a certain task, you can be like, oh, I don't quite have the right stats for that. I'm going to get my crew member to do it. But all wrapped up, of course, in the same kind of sprawling, interwoven narrative that Citizen Sleeper original flavor had. Just really, really good stuff. Like, the way that Gareth Damian Martin, the developer at Jump Over the Age, who has made these games, they're just a really good writer. Like, even the descriptive stuff that kind of happens in between, like the more meaty kind of dialogue character sections, just like hits my exact sci-fi itch with almost every paragraph.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm super into it. I'm not very far. I think I've probably only played for maybe 5 or 6 hours, and I have no idea how much more there is. I know I opened up the map when I was finally able to go like from one station to the other, and I was like, oh, it's not, it's still an indie game, so it's not Starfield, but it's like got a good amount there, and just knowing the kind of the stuff that I've done so far contract wise of going out and doing little independent venture here or there, I'm like, there's probably a lot more under the hood that I've yet to discover. So very excited to keep going with that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm excited to try it out now that it's on the GOTY nominee list because Citizen Sleeper 1, I really appreciated what they were doing, but I kind of bounced off it after like an hour. And I'm excited to dive in to Citizen Sleeper 2 and give that a shot as well and see if that's the one that sticks with me.
I will say there's 3 difficulty modes. I'm playing on the middle, kind of the default one, but there is like a more story focused mode that removes some of the like debuff kind of things because it has been so far fairly punishing.
Okay.
Some of your dice can break, and so you like start with 5 and you can like lose them temporarily, and the resources that you need to repair them are encountered fairly infrequently, at least so far. So it's definitely, I mean, in the narrative conceit, it makes sense because it has kind of forced me to make maybe some tougher, more difficult decisions than I would have if I had like a safety net, which has led to some interesting narrative moments. But it's definitely, I think, maybe a little bit more punishing than Citizen Sleeper 1. So if you want to play on maybe a lighter setting, I don't know if that would help.
And when you say punishing, because I know this is a big story game, are there actual fail states game over, or is it just, hey, you failed this, so that's going to influence the story going forward, and it puts you down more of a negative story path? Like is there a flat game over, or is it just, you failed an outcome, so that's negatively impacting the story, but the game goes on?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't remember there ever being a game over in Citizen Sleeper 1. And I have yet to encounter one in Citizen Sleeper 2. I'm kind of assuming that it's like you're saying, it's just gonna close off certain story branches,
Gotcha.
and or introduce like more negative ones. But it is a game about kind of, or not about, but it is a game whose central narrative conceit revolves around you being a biomechanical creature that has planned obsolescence and trying to kind of stave that off. So it remains to be seen.
Okay. I'm excited to play that. Is that on Game Pass like the first game was?
Yeah.
Ooh. Damn. A lot of good games coming out.
The price is right.
The price is right, folks. Any other games you want to bring up, Jake?
No.
Okay.
I was trying to think if I've played anything else.
That's fair.
I was just stuck in Blueprints for days.
You're done with it now. You're done with it.
I uninstalled it. It's gone.
I've been bouncing around a little bit between some games. One of the games I've been streaming this week is The Alters, which came out recently on Game Pass.
Also on Game Pass, yeah.
And got a lot of positive buzz. Have you heard of this game, Jake? What have you heard about it?
I have seen like PR for it, and I watched like 5 minutes of you streaming it.
Okay.
That's my knowledge of it.
So I'll describe The Alters. It's basically, it's weird. So it is a sci-fi survival game is the way they describe it. So you technically have a base and you can build out sections of the base, and you need to go out into the into this harsh planet and collect resources. And there is like a time mechanic, which is kind of a mix between Stardew Valley having an energy meter in terms of like how much energy you can spend each day. I think there's actually 2 energy meters. And then there is in this economy. And then there's also a mix of like Persona, where you are basically spending time, where it's like, yeah, you can do that, but it's going to take, this chunk of time, and each day is only certain chunks of time. So for example, if you're trying to mine a resource, you'll mine the resource, and it's actually really cool. Like you walk up to a little node, and you're like, mine this node, and he just does like a sped up mining action, and the clock fast forwards like 45 minutes. And it's like, boom, you just spent 45 minutes doing that. And then there's certain things like climbing, like climbing a rope to get over a tall obstacle takes some of your energy pips. And I think you have like 6 or 7 energy pips to start. So you're spending time, but you're also spending energy on like particularly strenuous activities, and that's how your day goes by, which is cool. So like based on that, you're like, okay, so it's just a survival game, right? The interesting thing though is that it's very story driven. It actually seems pretty linear, which I'm not complaining about. It's just, for me, a survival game is a game in which you are given tools to survive and progress at your own pace. And this game's not really doing that. It's kind of giving you survival mechanics and tools to progress the story. And so I'll give you an example. Like this felt like a little bit of a tutorial area, but it basically, you start your bases in one area, and they're like, hey, we need you to collect resources. So you get some objectives, and they're like, collect resources. Okay, now build this thing, and you build that thing. Okay, now do this, and you do that. And then it's like, cool, now move your base, and your base moves to the next area. And each area is like a small self-contained map. You can explore, and there's multiple little nodes in there, but it's not, I'm almost certain these areas are not procedurally generated, right? They're finely crafted areas. Yep. And the objectives are taking you down this main story path. So it's not like I can progress necessarily at my own pace, but I am having to go out and farm resources and build out my base in a survival-like way, but it's to unlock the next story objective.
Yeah.
So I just say that, like, it's not a survival game. Even though they say it's a survival game in the description, it's not. It has a lot of survival mechanics. You're running around, doing a little exploration, doing a little mining and things like that, and resource management. But those are just the mechanics they're using to progress you through a fairly linear story. That being said, where this game really bangs, though, where it really gets you, is in the story. Are you familiar with the gimmick in this game, Jake? The altar gimmick?
No, I feel like I've seen some, maybe it was in like an early trailer or something. Let me step back.
Take your time.
I remember seeing an early trailer for this, and I didn't watch it with any audio. I was just kind of looking at the imagery, and in my head I went, Groundhog Day. I have no idea if that's correct or not.
It's not
Okay.
It's not far, though. It is some sci-fi stuff like that. So basically the premise is that your entire crew died. You're the only one that survived. You weren't the captain or anything. I think you were, I don't even know what your job was. I think you were like the biologist or something. And anyways, you're stuck here, and there's like a timeline in terms of like, oh, we've got to move the base every X number of days, otherwise the sun's gonna, or like a radiation storm or something's gonna blow it away. So basically the whole thing is like, you can't survive on your own. You're gonna need some help. Luckily, this planet has a resource called Rapidium, and your shady tech company that you work for has a way of turning that Rapidium into clones. But they're not just normal clones of you. What they've done is essentially they know based on your DNA all the significant memories and decision points in your life. And when you create a clone, you're not creating an exact copy of yourself. You're creating a clone with altered memories from you so that it has different skills than you. So I'll give you an example. Let's say main character, I don't know if he's a biologist, but let's just say you're a biologist, right? And like I said, you're mining resources. So when I went to create a clone, they were like, do you want to create a miner so that when he's mining, he gets like 50% more resources or whatever? Yeah. But the way that, and it's a very simple way, right? It's like, hey, do you want a new worker? This worker is a miner. He has 50% in mining skills, whatever, right? Like that's nothing new. What's crazy about this game, what they do really, really well is how they tell that, how they explain that in the story. And literally you get a graph, like a flow chart of all your memories. There's like 20 or 30 of them. And when you first see it, you read through the memories, and each of them is like a 2 or 3 sentence where it's like, hey, you grew up, your dad worked in the mines, your dad was abusive, beat your mom a lot, your mom got cancer, your mom died, you went to college, you I don't think you got married, but you had a long-term relationship, it went poorly, she left, you got depressed, and then you decided to go on this mission, right? Mm-hmm. That's your story. But in that example, in order to create the miner, what they do is they go back and when your mom died, your dad showed back up and was like, I'm sorry, let me help you out. Come work at the mines with me. And if you say yes, boom, different set of paths. That's the miner. So from that point, he has a branching set of memories, and you can read through his memories and how things went differently from him. Like I think he was in the mines, things were going great. He started doing explosives works because it paid more. Then he lost an arm. Then he lost his job. Then he started drinking, and then his old foreman showed up and said, "Hey, this space gig opened up. Let's go do this because that's the only way we're going to get you a job now." Right? So it still ends up in the same place. And it's basically a clone of you, but they have different memories. And now you have to interact with them. So it's not just you have a resource, you have another worker who can help you out around the base and you can assign them tasks. You're having to talk to them and balance their emotional needs as well. Like they'll say their insecurities, which are similar to your insecurities, and they'll have like, green positive thoughts and red negative thoughts, and you have to kind of balance it. So that's what makes this game really interesting, is that they're taking mechanics that are not new, but they're coming up with new and incredibly interesting ways to wrap them with story. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I dig it. I'll try it.
It's really cool. I'm only like 2 or 3 hours in. I'm taking my time with it because it's a decent stream game. It's not quite super grabbing me. I think the problem is that the survival mechanics aren't sticking with me. Like that needs to be big enough for me to really go into it. But it's a good stream game. And honestly, the biggest problem is I didn't really want to dive into it because I've also been playing Death Stranding 2, which came out today. Jake, you played Death Stranding 1, right?
I played like 15 hours of Death Stranding 1 and I still need to finish it.
Okay. Don't worry. I'm not going to talk about spoilers or anything. Mostly because
I only know what I played of it so far.
I only know Death Stranding 1 spoilers because I looked up a summary of the story this morning to remind me. Because I remember the big beats, but I was like, I feel like the last 4 hours things got really fucking weird, didn't they? And I looked it up and I was like, oh yeah, they did get weird. Yeah, Death Stranding 2 came out today. I think it actually had an early play period for people who got like the deluxe version, but today's the general release. PS5 only, which I don't know. I'm a little torn about it because it's the same fucking engine. Like there's no reason it can't run on PS4. And playing the game because
they got Death Stranding on PC.
That's true. But I could see if it's got to be a Sony exclusive.
Yeah.
I understand why they made this decision, right? Because they're like, we really got to have a PS5 exclusive. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything preventing this game from running on PS4 just because as I'm thinking about it, the game looks better, but it's not like it's larger areas or adding more enemies on screen or anything that jumps out to me. But buddy, it's more Death Stranding. Like I'm only about 3.5 hours in. But it feels like a really good sequel. And let me explain what I mean by that. Like there's a couple different ways to do a good sequel, but the way this does the sequel is it's like, hey, remember those things from the first game that you liked doing? We still have that. And we have even more of it. You're still going to be carrying packages, right? You're still going to be hopping through environments, but we got different packages, different environments now. You like to build stuff and like do ladders and all that. We've got even more of that. And in the second game, we're going to give it to you even sooner so that, you're not, it's probably taking half the time to show you that stuff and have you start hopping on that stuff. Remember the stuff you liked in the first game that there wasn't enough of, like the combat? If you want more combat, there's more combat here. Here's bandit camps all over the place right off the bat. You can avoid them or you can go after them. It's up to you. Do you want more stuff? Okay, well, here's more story. And I haven't really unlocked any of the more stuff, but I know there's like a monorail system. Like it just feels like it's the type of sequel where they knew what you liked. They did more of that. Better versions of it, expanded, crazier takes on it. They know what you didn't like some of the menus were a little wonky in the first game, things were a little slow, and they're like, poop that out, we're getting rid of that. And it's Death Stranding 1, but bigger and better. It really is.
And with George Miller. I haven't gotten to George Miller yet, but I also was not expecting to get emotional about this game. Like right off the bat, they're like, hey, it's 11 months later.
Lou's still here. He's walking around. He's babbling. He's pushing a little cart full of goods and he bumps into your foot and you go, oh, fresh delivery. And you're just like Tatty. And it's like, damn. And then I'll just say, do you remember when you make deliveries and you deliver it and the people don't want to be anywhere near you? They talk to you and then they're like, okay, go to your private room. You remember that in the first game?
Yeah.
So in your private room, I don't think this was in the first game. In your private room, you have a big wall, a big holo wall in front of you and behind your bed. And you can change it to any picture you've taken in the game. And so I open up my pictures and it comes preloaded with like 20 pictures of you and your kid. Like you, like, yeah, of the baby crawling around and like you doing a selfie with the baby. It's like looking into a family album. And so I just have like 2 giant blown up images of baby Lou on the walls. So every time I wake up in the room, there's literally just like a 20 by 10 foot picture of Lou on the wall and then behind me as well. And it's very funny. I will admit, I was trying to... The baby pictures were my second choice. Can you guess what my first choice of picture was?
I mean, Redis's butt? Is that?
No. That's not a bad idea. It was going to be like a super blown up like eyes or lips of Fragile of Lea Seydoux. But I hadn't taken a picture and the only picture in there was not good enough, but I tried to. I was like, this is my pinup poster, my pinup wall. So yeah, I'm only a couple hours in, but it's Death Stranding 2. It's pretty good. I'm excited for you to play it.
On the beach. Do I have to read on the beach beforehand?
No.
Okay.
I would. The game does have like on the main menu, it has like a 17 slide summary of Death Stranding 1.
Yeah.
And it's okay, but it doesn't tell you the big story beats at the end of Death Stranding 1. So that's when I then had to go look up and be like, okay, somebody explain the ending of Death Stranding 1 to me, because I remember crazy shit happened. And it turns out crazy shit did happen.
Well, I have to go finish Death Stranding and then buy a PS5 and then play Death Stranding 2.
Yeah. Sorry, it brings to my head, I'm like, do I recommend getting a PS5? And if not, when? And I think the answer's no, I probably wouldn't recommend it. And I'm going to
assume that it will come to PC.
Yes.
Eventually.
Yes. And it runs pretty well on PC. Yeah, probably a year to 18 months. Actually, we don't have it in the news section, but Sony literally came out, I think, yesterday and said, we're going to continue deliberately delaying PC releases because it's working out for us so far.
Yeah. More power to them, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say 12 to 18 months, or on Xbox. For
the Death Stranding 2 on the beach director's cut. Or on the Xbox. Who knows?
On the Xbox, yeah. It does look phenomenal though. I'm playing it on a base PS5, not a PS5 Pro. It has 2 settings, quality and performance. So quality is 4K, but 30 FPS. Performance is 1440p, but 60 FPS. So I chose performance, and like I can't tell what I'm missing. It's hard to even tell it's a 1440p image. Like there's a little bit of softness, but that upscaling, upresing that the PS5 has is very good, because like there's so many vista shots of just like you on these rocky mountains, and you can just see all the little individual rocks and pebbles for like fucking hundreds of meters, and then the vista in the background. Like it looks gorgeous even on the performance setting. Game's incredible. I feel like
the Decima engine, and I'm not a game developer, I'm not a programmer by any means, but I feel like the Decima engine, in my experience with it in Death Stranding and the Horizon games, is generally, I think, kind of like you were saying, just a little bit softer than something like Unreal. Like Unreal is like a crispy engine in my head.
Yeah, like too crisp. Yes.
Yeah, and Decima's got a bit more, not finesse, but it definitely is softer. Bloomier, maybe. Yeah.
It's an incredible engine. So Death Stranding 2, if you guys are Death Stranding heads, go out and get Death Stranding 2. It's delivering, and I'm in the early part of the game where there's new story beats happening, but they're still like doling out the mechanics from the old game, but at a much faster clip. So I haven't even really hit the new stuff yet. So it's just more of the same. It's great. There is one other game that I've been dabbling in this week, and it's a certain guilty pleasure I have in a way. Jake, you ever see current events in the news and that kind of gives you an itch to play a game related to the current events?
I'm sure that very specific scenario has occurred before, but certainly not recently.
You're telling me that you haven't been watching all of the airstrikes in Iran and gone, fuck, I gotta play more VTOL VR. Like, that could be me.
Assuming you were going to talk about VTOL VR. But,
just real quick. It is a guilty pleasure though, because it we're not going to get political. That's for Tuesdays.
You were trying to fact check the airstrike by doing it yourself.
Yes, yeah. That's right. Well, I also watched Top Gun Maverick because I've been meaning to, but also because like I kind of forgot that whole movie is just like, we have to hit Iran's nuclear facilities without specifically saying it's
the
Iran.
enemy.
Yeah. And they're like, we have to do this and do that. And then it turns out, no, you just send, 6 B-2 bombers from Missouri on a 30-hour flight. But yeah, I've been playing some VTOL VR. Game is still great. There was a mod that came out for it recently, which added the Little Bird. Are you familiar with the Little Bird, the MH6 helicopter?
No, I'm way less familiar with helicopters than I am with airplanes.
I think if I describe it, you'll get it. So if you remember in the movie Black Hawk Down, or in the Iraq War, there's the big Black Hawk, but then there's also the tiny 2-seater helicopter that's very tiny, and it usually has like a little bit of like a little rocket pods or Gatling guns on the side, and then it's got skids, and usually like 2 people will sit on the skids on each side, and it just like really tiny helicopter rips around a lot.
I'm just picturing those where it's like a bowl cockpit with like a really strutty fuselage.
That's pretty much it. It's like the military version of that civilian thing, basically.
Okay.
So it's like a really tiny, preppy little helicopter. It's the second helicopter in the game. It is technically a mod, but it's really well done. I've played it a little bit. It's a little buggy. It does cause my game to crash, but it's just really cool to be in this little tiny helicopter. You have no HUD, which is unique for this because the rest of the game you have a HUD. You have a heads-up display. So in this one, you're constantly having to look at the instruments. And then it also has, it's a 2-person helicopter, but you're sitting side by side. So I haven't done it with anybody yet. I'm trying to get Will to do it with me, where you're literally sitting shoulder to shoulder in VR in this little tiny helicopter. And then the other cool thing they did is in between the 2-seaters on the back firewall are 2 M16s. And there are no firearms in the rest of this game. So they added M16. So as you're flying around, you can just shoot an M16 out the side of this and reload it.
Good.
And it's such an incredible engine that they can add, the mod community can come in and just be like, yeah, let's add a Little Bird. And it feels different, but it still flies really well. It's just a phenomenal game. I just had to mention it because it is a little weird seeing all the stuff in the news and trying not to get a war boner, but at the same time being like, I don't agree with it, but fuck, that's kind of cool. Let me go fly these missions. You know what I mean?
That's like the very complicated relationship I have with military hardware is always like, oh, this is being used for something horrible, but look at how cool it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's I forget there's a quote with Verhoeven where somebody was talking to him and they're like, a lot of your movies, you talk a lot about how, you grew up in occupied territory during World War II and you hate the Nazis and you don't like war and you don't like oppressive regimes. But also a lot of your movies kind of glorify violence and war. Have you noticed that? And he's like, Verhoeven's basically like, yeah, I just think war is cool. He's like, I don't morally agree with it, but it's fucking cool. And I can't help having it in my movies. And it's the same thing with me in these military actions, Anyways, shall we move on to this week's discussion topic? Because folks, there's literally no gaming news. The biggest news story this week is that Microsoft may lay off people at Xbox next week. So the biggest news story this week is tune in next week. So instead of that, we're going to have a little discussion topic. Jake, I'm sure you've noticed the New York Times movie list they started this week, I guess it was. Could you describe what that
best
is?
Movies of the 21st century.
Yes.
I think they reached out to a number of like specific critics, film historians, writers, directors, etc., to curate this top 100 best movies of the 21st century.
Yes.
But then they also allow readers to submit their own ballots of 10 movies apiece.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been hearing people on podcasts talk about this, people on Twitter, etc. And I thought it would be a fun idea in place of news for Jake and I to share our top 10 movies of the 21st century. This is not in any particular order, but I think it'll be fun to kind of see what we've been enjoying. Jake, would you like to go first?
Sure. I kept having to not pipe up during the Death Stranding discussion because I realized my list features 2 directors who have been in the Death Stranding games.
Oh, okay. I can. I
see. I
can guess one of them, and the other one I think I can.
Air.
I mean, I know the directors. It's. Let me say it out here. Don't tell me if I'm right or wrong. Let me just guess. One's definitely going to be Fury Road by George Miller. The other one is probably going to be Nicholas Winding Refn with me personally, I'd put Drive. Drive's fantastic. Those are my predictions there.
We shall see.
We shall see.
So we picked 10 movies, what we think are the best from the year 2000 to the year now. And so when you were like, hey, let's do this, I immediately went into, of course, my Letterboxd, and I sorted my viewed films by those decades and put all my gut reactions into a list. And that ended up being 16 movies.
Okay.
So I had to whittle it down. But we'll start chronologically. First 7 years of the century are a bust. So we're going to start in the year 2008.
I'm just going to check my list and see how many. I have 3 in the first 7 years.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to start in 2008. And I actually have 2 movies in 2008. One is WALL-E, directed by Andrew Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is Speed Racer, directed by the Wachowskis.
You know, Speed Racer almost made my list. It's very, very good. It was just real quick.
Really good.
You said you had 16 and you had to whittle it down. I think I had 13 or 14 to whittle it down, and Speed Racer was one of them that got cut.
There's actually, as we go through my list, I started to notice a theme in the movies that I was picking, which I'll want to talk about at the end, where I was like, oh, I guess I like kind of a very specific type of film.
Christina Ricci, yeah.
Yes.
Actually,
I just really love Susan Sarandon.
Yes.
So WALL-E, a great almost silent film, animated in the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, I forgot that the first portion of that really is like a silent film. I forgot about that.
No dialogue except for those random bits, the random FMV scenes they have with Fred Willard as the president of the United States.
I should rewatch that. I haven't seen that since it came out.
It's good. It's good. And it has, for a Pixar movie, remarkably, it does not have a closing credits song by Randy Newman. Its closing credits song is composed by...
I'm sorry. How many has he done? Because I was only familiar with Toy Story. Does he do all of them?
I don't know. I don't think he's done a lot, but for a while he was definitely doing, I want to say, most of them. I think...
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Maybe I've memory holed Randy Newman into more movies than he is actually in. But all that to say, the end credits song from WALL-E is by Peter Gabriel. And it slaps. So that's 2008. Then we're going to skip all the way to 2013.
Okay.
For Miyazaki's The Wind Rises.
Oh, I have not seen that one. That's on my list, but now it's higher. It's on my to watch list. So now it's higher since you've recommended it.
It's very good. It was one of those movies that of course, I didn't watch it in 2013. I think I watched it for the first time maybe 1 or 2 years ago, not really knowing what to expect and being completely floored by it by the time I was through. A very great movie about the guy who invented the Zero for
Yeah, the
Mitsubishi prior to
Mitsubishi
World War
Zero.
II.
Yeah,
Great film. Then 2014, the Lego Movie. Somewhat of a
that
guilty
is a good
pleasure.
movie. That is a
Somewhat
good
of a
movie,
guilty
though.
pleasure, but I've rewatched it recently. It really holds up, and I think when we get to the end and I talk about kind of the kind of running theme through this, I think
Yeah.
it'll land a little better.
Did we talk about how? Have you seen Lego Batman?
Yes, the best Batman movie.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It blew me away how good it was.
It's very good.
It
Yes.
may actually, you know what? It may be the best Batman movie
Like,
now that you
I'll
talk
go to
about
bat for it being the best Batman
it. Oh
movie.
shit.
No disrespect
That's very
to
funny.
Matt Reeves and Greg Fraser or Chris Nolan and who shot?
Tim Burton.
No, I'm trying to think of who the DP was on The Dark Knight. Was it Hoyte van Hoytema at that point, or no? It was someone
I
else.
no idea.
I don't remember. But
I don't think it was
yeah.
a porn movie though.
No. 2014 Lego Movie. Then of course, here's one of your picks. 2015, I did pick George Miller's Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
Because that movie just rips from start to finish. It's so good, and it's, I think, infinitely rewatchable.
Yes. I'm sorry, I can't help but notice you did skip Drive, though.
Well, that's then maybe going to be the twist. My second director is. My second Death Stranding director is. Yeah, Fury Road, I think, is not similarly to Wall-E in the respect that it's not actually a silent film, but you could kind of watch it that way. Like, if you turned it off and just played the score, you'd still get essentially the whole movie. It is no disrespect to the script, because the dialogue and the performances are great. But
I was just gonna say, I did just watch one of the most well known and lauded silent movies, The General by Buster Keaton, which is very similar in structure because it's one train ride, and then there's shit happens, and then it's a train ride back. So it is. That's very funny. I don't think it's deliberate in any way, but yeah, it's a good format. It's a good format for sure.
Yeah. Then we move on to 2016. I picked Denis Villeneuve's Arrival.
Good movie.
That movie rocks. I had one of the ones that got cut was Blade Runner 2049. I didn't want to put two Villeneuves on my list of 10. Even though that movie also rules.
I kind of had the same thing as well, where there were certain directors where I was like, I should have them on the list, but I don't want to have them multiple times. So it was like, let me pick their best out of it. So I totally get that feeling.
Yeah. 2017. Here is then the second performer in Death Stranding. I picked Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water.
Oh, I forgot he is in Death Stranding. Yeah. Yes. Great movie.
That movie rules.
Best Picture winner, which in hindsight,
Best Picture winner.
It deserved it, but
also
Sally
Hawkins has sex with a fish man.
In like the first 30 minutes, you're just like, oh fuck, we're doing this. It's wild that won Best Picture in retrospect.
Yeah, it's so good. And Michael Shannon is so good. Doug Jones as the fish man, great.
Do you remember? Do you remember the line about Baltimore?
Alexander Desplat too. Huh?
Isn't there? Do you remember the line about Baltimore in Shape of Water?
It's been a minute since I've watched it.
Sorry, I'm looking it up real quick. Sorry, I just remember I watched it while I was in Baltimore in theaters, and there's some line where they're like, "Who wants to live in fucking Baltimore?" And I was like, "Good point." And the audience was like,
I don't remember that, but
it was just a very weird. Yeah,
I gotta go rewatch it. Then all right, we're down to the final three in the chronological order. 2018, Alex Garland's Annihilation. I think this perhaps as a dark horse pick, but I really clicked with this movie when I first saw it. Saw it on I think opening day, and then I immediately went back to see it the next day.
Mhm.
I
Had you read the book beforehand?
Yes, I had read the
Okay.
book beforehand, and unlike Jeff Vandermeer, I loved this movie. I think
Because
it's so funny that he doesn't
yeah,
like this movie.
I'm
But
ready for a
yeah, I get
rewatch
it.
because I saw it when it came out and it did not click for me. But
Mm,
then I went back and read the book. Actually, I've read all the books now, and when I first started reading that first book, I was like, okay, I really like what this is doing, and I'm recognizing the themes that are in the movie that just kind of like some of them went over my head, some of them I just kind of dismissed and didn't care about. But I'm excited to now rewatch the movie, having a better understanding. Like it's a rewatch. I know what to expect, and also I'm more familiar with that world and the themes that are going on. So
yeah,
I'm literally ready to give that movie a second chance. For me, I've got it ready to go. I just haven't picked the night yet when I'm gonna watch it.
yeah, yeah. I remember it being kind of the first movie where I remember suddenly seeing a lot of ending explained videos show
Oh
up on
yeah,
YouTube. It
I
was
bet.
for whatever reason this was the first one that kind of got into my algorithm where suddenly I was like, "Oh, I guess like the ending's kind of stumping a lot of people." But
Yeah, it is a little
yeah,
weird. Yeah.
it's just certainly weird. But yeah, Oscar Isaac's great, Natalie Portman's great. The whole cast, Tessa Thompson
Mhm.
is really good. Gina Rodriguez also good.
Jane the Virgin.
Um,
Yep.
but yeah, big fan. And for a director whose filmography on the whole I'm pretty torn on. Um,
Yes.
but I
Yeah.
really liked this one.
Because he wrote and directed that,
Wrote
right?
and directed. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Um, then we're gonna jump to 2022. Steven Spielberg's The Fablemans. Um,
I need to watch that as well. I've heard great
it
things about it.
really hit me where I live, but for kind of very specific filmmakerly reasons, where
Gotcha.
it was one of those movies where I watched it and immediately I was like, God, I gotta get back on set. I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make a movie.
That's good. That's good.
I'm
Yeah.
like hyped. Like I
I
watched
have
this
to.
movie and I had a feature script kind of stagnating that had been sitting on my hard drive for months. And
Mhm.
within like 3 days, I had finished writing it because I was just like, I gotta do it.
I gotta do it.
It was one of those kind of movies. And then my final pick, 2023. I did pick Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and those are my 10.
Let's hear your 10 back, top to bottom, real quick.
Okay, so top to bottom, Wall-E, Speed Racer, The Wind Rises, The Lego Movie, Mad Max Fury Road, The Shape of Water, Arrival, The Shape of Water, Annihilation, The Fablemans, Oppenheimer. My 10
Nice
best
list.
movies of the 21st century.
Nice list. So now my list. Like we talked about, I had a cut list of 13 or 14. Some stuff I had to take off the list. I'm going to go in chronological order as well because I think that it lines up nicely with some of your periods.
Mhm.
Like, for example, you said your first movie was what, 2007? Is that right?
2008.
I have 3 movies before 2008. The first one is 2004's Kung Fu Hustle. Just
Oh,
just an
okay.
incredible movie. And I had to put this on the list because not only is it like a personal favorite of mine, like it's always just enjoyable to watch this, but it also felt like one of those movies that comes out of nowhere and is just doing things completely fucking differently, you know?
Yeah.
The very physical humor of it, the exaggeration of it, but also based in like its live action, and the fact that it broke out of China, right? Like it was like it's such a like a cross borders international uh enjoyment of this movie that it doesn't matter that it's like from a completely separate culture and kind of based in that culture. And so, you know, I did kind of what you did, which is trying to remember all the movies I've seen, going back in Letterboxd. I don't keep it as much with Letterboxd as you do probably, and I don't even rate on Letterboxd anymore. I just, you know, add the movies as I watch them. But when I saw Kung Fu Hustle, I was like, it's gotta be on there. Another one. This one is part of a trilogy. It's the middle movie in the trilogy. The first movie was not eligible, and so I had to pick between the second and third movies, but I do think it is my favorite out of the 3 movies in the trilogy, and that is 2004's Before Sunset from Richard Linklater. Are you familiar with with the Before trilogy?
I am familiar with Linklater's Before trilogy. I've not seen any of them. I thought for a hot minute you were going to say Matrix Reloaded when you were describing like
no, that'd be wild.
Movie that came out before, like Matrix was 99. When did
there was a very short part of me that was like, I should put the Animatrix on this list just for the second Renaissance part 1 and 2. Because it's fucking incredible. But then I remembered that the rest of the Animatrix is not that good, and I was like, I can't do that. I'm sorry, I can't. But yeah, Before Sunset, just fantastic. I think for me that I was 14 when that movie came out, and I watched it, and it just really felt like a movie that showed. I wasn't completely like this, but before then, I was like, oh, I want movies with explosions and tits, right? Explosions, tits, and jokes, good old ETJ. That's all I want in my movies. And then I watch something like Before Sunrise and then Before Sunset, and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. There are characters with emotions that I can relate to, so that for me really stood out. And the third movie, 2007, this is a movie I actually watched very recently for the first time, and it blew me away. I was giggling with glee the entire time watching this movie. It's called Please Vote for Me. You ever heard of this movie, Jake?
I'm perhaps picturing the poster in my head. Who's it? Or maybe I'm thinking of Robin Williams in Man of the Year.
I would be surprised if you've heard of this because I didn't hear about it until a month or two ago. But basically what happened was I watched a documentary on the last 100 years of Chinese history, but it stopped in 1990. So then I went online and I was like, the best documentaries about modern China. And this one popped up, and it's a documentary. I believe it came out on PBS. It was filmed in the early to mid 90s, but it was released in 2007. And basically the premise is that it's like a 3rd grade classroom in China, and they are electing their hall monitor, like the student who's in charge of keeping them in line, etc. And the teacher's like, it's in China, and the teacher's like, okay, in order to do this, we're going to pretend to be Americans. We're going to do a democracy. So in 2 weeks, there will be an election. And it just follows these little 3rd graders. There's 3 candidates, and it follows them with cameras as they're like skeeving and conniving, and there's like a talent show. There's like a speech they give. They're like running around being like, who are you going to vote for? Who are you going to vote for? And then it follows them as they like talk to their families, and their parents are like, write your speech. You have to practice your speech. Tell us what your speech is going to be. And like just as an example, like one of the dads is like, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to call the teacher. I'm going to take your entire class on a trip on the subway because I work at the subway. And so he takes them on a field trip just so that the kids will vote for his son. And it's this like 45-minute documentary, and it's fucking incredible. It's called Please Vote for Me. The whole thing's on YouTube. Highly recommend it. Yeah, it's insane. It's one of those things where I don't know if you feel this way about documentaries, but I want documentaries to be astonishing and like incredible in terms of footage, in terms of like, how the fuck did they get this? Either it's an interview and somebody's admitting to something, or the camera is just there for these moments, like this incredible veracity.
Like the rehearsal.
Exactly, yeah. And this is like
what's happening.
Exactly. And this is like one of the best examples of that. So that's Please Vote for Me. 2013.
Big jump.
It is a big jump. This is a movie that I've watched 4 or 5 times because is similar to Before Sunset. It just has some enthralling characters, fantastic actors and actresses, and it has this like generational drama. I'm talking, of course, about The Place Beyond the Pines. Have you watched this movie?
It's what, Gosling, right? Is this a Refn, or is it?
It's not Refn. I can't remember. It's also he later did Killing Them Softly, but it's got Bradley Cooper. Ryan Gosling. It's got the guy that plays Krennic. I forgot his name. Ben Mendelsohn. I know this took the film department at my school by storm. It's so good. It's another one where it's just like incredible actors playing incredible characters in a great story that just slowly unfolds. Mm-hmm. It's very, very good. My My number 5 on the list, 2016, the movie that I saw this in theaters with friends. We were like, hey, let's hang out and watch this movie. And within like 2 minutes, I was like, what the fuck is happening in this movie? And it was so much emotions. And I cried halfway through. Of course, I'm talking about Shin Godzilla. What fucking movie.
Yeah, baby.
This is gonna sound so fucking pedestrian, and it's probably more praise. I'm lavishing this praise on this movie in a way that makes it sound like no other movie does this, but I do think it's, for me and for movies in general, something incredible. This should have been a dumb fucking Godzilla movie, right? Mm-hmm. Like 99% of Godzilla movies are dumb. They're just dumb action movies, right? It astounded me that somebody took a property so established as being a dumb action movie like Godzilla and said, no, we're actually going to make it like a dark comedy with like very real political themes and statements on modern political climate in Japan and past crises, and have it like actually mean something and say something and elevate it way beyond the status that it deserves as a dumb action movie series. Mm-hmm. And that's Shin Godzilla. I know you love this movie as well, right?
Yeah, I'll say Shin Godzilla and Godzilla -1 were on my short list before I narrowed it down to 10. And yeah, Shin Godzilla, I remember a buddy of mine from school was interning at a post house in Orlando when this movie came out, and we're like, let's go see the new Godzilla movie. And it was exactly like you said, that we were like very quickly into it. We were like, oh wait, this is not what we were expecting, but it's so good.
Yes.
And that's what you get when you hire the guy who made Evangelion to reboot your Godzilla franchise.
Yes. And just shout out, Shin Godzilla is coming out in 4K this fall, but also getting a 4K re-release in theaters. I will be there. Incredible movie. 2019, jumping up to 2019. This is a movie that I had no desire in seeing. It's in a genre that I have zero interest in, but I was getting such positive buzz that I had to watch it. It's a little something called Midsummer.
Okay. Ari Aster's Midsummer.
Yes. I normally don't like horror movies, but this is getting so much positive buzz that I was like, and Florence Pugh was popping off at the time. I was like, fuck it. Okay, I'll watch this. And I remember, do you remember how that movie opens, Jake?
Yeah. I do remember.
This isn't a spoiler. It's literally the first 5 minutes, but basically Florence Pugh's sister commits suicide, but in a way that also kills her parents at the same time. And it just opens on that like haunting set of events. And I remember giggling because it was so tense and I was so wrecked by what this movie was doing that I was just like, oh my God, what is this movie? And to the extent that Maggie turned to me and was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, do you think this is funny? And I was like, no, I just got to break the tension somehow. And it doesn't let off. And it's an incredible movie.
It's like, I don't remember exactly if it's a oneer, but it's definitely a series of long shots.
Yes.
Where it starts in the garage and you see that the car is still on. And then you see it like
the
tracks
hoses
down to like a pipe that's connected to the exhaust, and it goes up the stairs, and it's all really slow, and it's obvious because you're like, oh no,
oh fuck. And I think isn't she? I'm trying to remember. Is she reading the suicide note over top of it?
I think it's that Florence Pugh is either on the phone calling her sister, or it's the voicemails or something. And that's piped into the parents' room, and you see the parents are dead, but then it keeps tracking down the hall to the sister's room where she has like a face mask.
Yeah.
With the hose.
And I was just like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, this is just an incredibly well-made movie. It does a really good job of introducing humor to break the tension, but things are still fucked up. Very good movie. Another movie that had me so incredibly tense the entire time. 2019, Uncut Gems. Have you seen Uncut Gems, Jake?
It's on a long list of movies I still need to see. I've heard only good things.
It's very good.
And I think the Safdie brothers' Good Time are on my list.
I need to watch Good Time. I haven't watched. This got a lot of positive buzz, and I love the idea of Adam Sandler playing it straight and it working like it did in what was the Paul Thomas? Yes, Punch Drunk Love. Yes. And so this movie is just like Adam Sandler plays just such a weird little character, but he's so weird, but he's so amped up that you're like amped up with him, and he's basically like a gambling addict, so he's constantly like, "No, do me one more line, give me the bet there. No, everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna go over here," and you're just like at that level of like, "Oh, what's happening? We gotta go. He's gotta pay off. What's happening here?" The whole time, it's what a trip. Next movie, 2019. This movie is actually on the Sight and Sound top 100 movies ever, according to critics. And that's the only reason why I watched this movie, because I had zero interest in another. Because as Kyle likes to put it, according to the SNL skit, this is just period lesbians. That's right. I'm talking about Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Jake, have you seen this movie?
Again, it's another one that's on my list, though I did briefly consider adding Benedetta.
Oh,
I think 2014.
Benedetta is very good.
Oliver Ovid's Benedetta.
It's so good. But for me, like, I can't take it seriously as a movie because it's just so funny in parts.
Oh, it's goofy.
It's goofy. Just real quick, I did Google Verhoeven movies and Cronenberg movies just to look at the ones that would qualify for this, but I hadn't either seen them or they weren't my favorites. Whereas,
yeah, it's a pretty short list. I think Verhoeven had Hollow Man, and then he had a couple foreign language ones, including Benedetta. And Cronenberg definitely had Crimes of the Future within the last couple of years, and he had this year, which I still need to see.
And he had a History of Violence.
Yeah.
And what's the other one? Slow Crimes or something like that. Crimes of Eastern Europe. Yeah.
Eastern Promises.
Not those movies are terrible, but it's the main reason I Googled that was
from either of those two.
Yeah, but the main reason I Googled that was because I was also like, I'm pretty sure Starship Trooper was made in the 90s, but I have to check.
I think it was 96.
Yeah, it was 96 or 97. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, so that's Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This movie just took my breath away. I think it does a fantastic job of, from the start, like, portraying romance as like you see somebody and there's like an immediate attraction and chemistry, and it's just glances, it's just looks, it's just that person is in the room and everything stops because of it. And I think Portrait of a Lady on Fire just takes you right there with it. Like, I'm not a lesbian, but now I know what it feels like to be a lesbian.
But I also love women.
I didn't know lesbians could love each other. I thought it was just a choice, No, it's very, very good.
We're learning so much this Pride Month.
Yeah. I do have a question for you, though. I've got 2 movies left here. The next movie is in a category of movies by different directors, etc. But it was a category where I was like, I love this category of movies so much that I have to include at least one of them in my list. Okay. Did you have something like that when you were putting together your list, where there was like, oh, I love these types of films, I have to have at least one of them in here somewhere? Which one is it going to be?
Well, when you say category, like I have most
like genre
or sci-fi movies.
Yeah, like genre or subgenre, where you're like, oh, there's 3 or 4 I could put in here for this, but let me pick the best one because they're similar.
I'm looking at my list, and it's 7 sci-fi movies and then 3 like biographies.
That's fair.
If Fabelmans counts as a biography.
So the genre, the category that I was struggling with was boardroom movies. I know we talked about this recently. Yeah. The idea is it's business people, not necessarily in a boardroom, but it's business people going through a business decision, a tough business moment. They're having to do something. So we're talking about things like Moneyball, almost made the list. Air, which came out recently, wouldn't make my list, but still a very good boardroom movie. 12 Angry Men is a boardroom movie. The boardroom movie that did make my list, though, is 2023's Blackberry, which heard great things about it, watched it on a plane, always thinking about it. Just a very, very good movie. Like, it does everything you want it to do, which is it tells the story in history. It tells all the characters in a fascinating way, how they interacted with each other. You have fantastic actors portraying them. You have all these like unbelievable moments that are real, and it's very funny as it's going, right? Just funny in the tension and funny in the conflict and how these people are trying to deal with it and the conflicting personality. So Blackberry makes my list because of that. the last movie on the list. I'm surprised it wasn't on yours, Jake. 2024 harkens back to the first movie on my list, Kung Fu Hustle, folks. I had to do it. Hundreds of Beavers. What a fucking incredible movie.
It was on my list of original pulls.
Yeah.
But I couldn't quite fit it into the top 10.
It was,
but
for me,
fantastic film.
For me, immediately the first two locked in movies for me, Hundreds of Beavers and Shin Godzilla. I think about those movies so often that I was like, yeah, they got to be on the list. So yeah, that's my list. That's Kung Fu Hustle, Before Sunset, Please Vote for Me, The Place Beyond the Pines, Shin Godzilla, Midsummer, Uncut Gems, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Blackberry, and Hundreds of Beavers. I think between the two of us, we had no overlap, right?
No, there's a pretty diverse spread.
Yeah, so that is 20 guaranteed fantastic movies for you guys to watch. I'm going to be putting those in our community Discord as well. Jake, any closing thoughts on the New York Times top 10?
Yeah, well, I had briefly teased that as I was building my list, I realized something about my own sensibilities as a storyteller, which was, if you look at my list, WALL-E, Speed Racer, The Wind Rises, Lego Movie, Fury Road, Arrival, Shape of Water, Annihilation, The Fabelmans, Oppenheimer, they're all more or less about people like searching for identity or trying to find like a deeper element of themselves, searching for meaning. And I was like, oh, interesting. That I gravitated towards all these movies. I think I just a lot of them also are kind of Speed Racer and The Fabelmans and Wind Rises, I think most explicitly are kind of symbolic of the artistic process. Like even Speed Racer, I think, is maybe the most explicit. Well, Fabelmans is pretty explicit, but Speed Racer has that. Susan Sarandon has that great monologue where she tells Speed, she's like, I go to watch you at the races for the same reason that I go and watch people play music or make art. And it's like, oh yeah, that's the stuff.
That's the good stuff.
That's the stuff. I think as the pretentious expression, as an artist, I definitely gravitate toward that kind of, maybe it's wish fulfillment, because I've made short films and I have dreams of making like real proper films. But I love creative expression, just generally. And, big fan of cinema and what it makes me feel.
Yeah. I think looking at my list, I feel like there's kind of two themes going on. One is like very strong characters and actors to portray them, and kind of giving them room for those characters to grow and interact with each other and change, between like Before Sunset, Place Beyond the Pines, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, right?
You've picked a lot of very naturalistic films.
Yes,
in my mind.
yes.
Like even like Blackberry and stuff has that very like fly on the wall kind of feeling.
Yes. Yeah. And Please Vote for Me, like more explicitly, like if you're a fly on the wall and you're in the most entertaining room in the world, fuck yeah, I'm gonna love that movie. And I think the other theme though is just people doing things very differently, trying things new and excelling at them. So you got, like Kung Fu Hustle, Shin Godzilla, Hundreds of Beavers, Midsummer, those types of things where you're like, I have a very outlandish premise or a very outlandish way to literally make the movie and portray the movie and show the movie, and it somehow fucking works, right? It's like the unexpected, but excelling at that. And I think between those two themes, that's kind of how my list got put together. I'll be sharing these in the Discord. It's a good exercise, folks. Go do it yourself.
We should do this every week.
I've had it in the back of my head for a while now. We could totally do a movie podcast, whether it's a movie club or even just like local chat format where we get together and we say, what movies have you watched?
Yeah. You don't have to convince me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Local Chat. Let me hit the outro music and see if I can time this properly. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Jake, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at _Jake Terrio, and correcting an error on Tuesday, I am on Blue Sky as just Jake Terrio. No
That's
underscore.
Right. At Just Jake Terrio on Blue Sky. I am at Think Gibson on Twitter and Blue Sky. Also at Subpixel Team. You can find us there, subpixelfilms.com. Come check us out, Discord, Twitch, etc.